Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Breakfast and Convos. I am Liberty White, video marketing specialist.
And I am Adeola, digital marketing expert who sits at the intersection of digital media marketing. Now it's transforming business and life.
And we come to you live every Tuesday morning. So happy Tuesday to everyone. And thank you for joining us, our LinkedIn fam. And every episode, I'm like, wait, we got to make sure that everything and everyone is firing on all cylinders. And thank you for joining us. This is episode 8, T.
Yes, we made it 8, almost 10.
Almost
Yes.
10. That's the number. When you get to 10 and consistently, we haven't missed any days. There's something to
hmm
be said about that consistency, especially as at the end of the day, we're creating content.
Absolutely. And high quality content, if I do say so myself. So, not so subtle nod to the producer slash co host slash visionary and whatever other hat you want to wear.
There
But
it is.
yeah, there it is.
Awesome. So we have a great show for you today, especially for those of you who are in the social media landscape, whether you're using it for business or just getting to know family or reconnecting, I should say, with family members. But before that, I have some super great news. I didn't even tell you this in our pre-production chat because I was like, let me save it so I can get the fullness of your
Ooh,
reaction.
surprises,
That-
surprises. I love. I love surprises.
So we had a few weeks ago, we were talking about all of the small businesses that are, we've got the PPP loan with this SBA. There are other organizations like the Sarah Blakely Fund with her Red Backpack Fund. And there are just a number of people that are helping small businesses, especially women in business. And I know that I had applied for a couple of grants and there was a no and there was a no. And I get it. There's like a million other people who are applying for these grants as well. Well, there is one in particular that on Friday morning, I was just going about my day on Friday, and I got word that I am the recipient of a Dooney Fund, and that's from
Congrats!
Digital Undivided. You don't
Congratulations!
understand. I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I was like, I was literally looking at my phone because it was, after you get, and we spoke about that with Becky last week, Becky Berry, just talking about the question was raised, how do you deal with rejection? So
Mhm.
in this case, I think I was, as a small business owner who was applying for these grants, I was like, well, I'm going to go after it, but I still have to figure out what to do and continue to grow in the midst of, the state of our economic landscape right now. But getting that money and it was deposited like the next day, the next day.
Nice,
It,
nice. Well, congratulations. You deserve it, and way to stick with it because yeah, it is. It's a very frustrating and very overwhelming time just in general. And of course, these applications aren't like half a page long. They want everything but a quart of blood. They want your records, and rightfully so because this is business.
right.
But anyway, yeah, that's exciting. That's
Thank you.
exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, shout out to Catherine Finney and the Digital Undivided team for what they are doing with, and if I recall correctly, the last number that I saw online was they've invested in over 500 women owned
Ooh,
businesses. So this is just, an
clap, clap,
organization
clap.
that, you know
That's
what?
what's
Thank you
up.
for that pause. Yes.
Yes.
It's an organization that they already create a accelerator program and help women to launch their businesses. So for them to step up to the plate and this time to be able to say, oh no, we're going to go even further because we understand that, $100, $200, $1,000, like that can go places for someone who this would, they missed a payment or they're behind on payments. And this is money that you do not have to repay. And it will help, especially, and it's an encouragement at the end of the day.
Mhm. Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's small wins cannot be overstated. These small wins, because sometimes you just need something to keep you going and something to get you out of bed. Because I mean, I don't know how big of of a Nipsey Hussle fan you are, but it's about the marathon, right?
That's
Business
it.
is a marathon, not a sprint. And when you get weak during the marathon, sometimes, and not that I would know because I've never run any, but I've been
But
told
the
that,
way you're working out, you're on your way.
exactly, exactly. Like sometimes all you need in that marathon is somebody holding out a cup of water for you to come and get. Like, hey, it's been 10 miles, 15 miles, however many miles, but here's this cup of water just for you because we see you running. Come
Right.
and get it. And
That's
so
it.
that breath of fresh air, well, I am that you started my day off on the right note. So thank you for that because that was my morning inspiration already. So congrats again. Very excited for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And, first and always, we try to shout folks out. So, hey, Wayman and hey, Simon, that are tuning in and watching. And thank you for those likes. If you are watching the rebroadcast, please go ahead, leave a comment or say just replay if you're a replay viewer and hit those like buttons over there. And now it's fitting to get into some of our tech news for the day. And there have been a lot of updates. I don't know what it was about last week that it seemed like everybody was just pushing out new releases. Or in this case, I'm going to talk to you about Facebook, which I don't know if you've gotten it yet. I haven't tried it yet, but there is a new video tool, if you want to say, on Facebook called Facebook Messenger Chat. And I don't know if you've seen it in your timeline. I remember when the news broke, I think I saw it with Social Media Examiner. Well, I saw it rolling out on Thursday. So it rolled out globally Thursday last week. Now, people were able to test it. You know how companies do. They roll out the slowly, first of all, to just make sure that it's stable and it's working and any bugs that they need to fix. But it rolled out globally last week, Thursday. And this is a tool that you'll be able to join people together in your messenger. So it's pretty interesting to see how Facebook over the past number of years has, when they roll out, of course, when they grabbed Instagram, when they scooped up WhatsApp, so they understand the power of connectivity, of course, being a
Mhm.
social media platform, but then also the conferencing or the telecommunications aspect of it. And now, so
Right.
you'll be able to just bring together a group of people on Messenger and then be able, and it's up to 50 people. So,
Nice.
what
Nice.
I,
That's pretty good.
yeah, what I like to say when it comes to, hi, good morning. This is our morning for on both sides. We have little people that have woken up a little bit earlier. Hi, hi, good morning. You can put your hand and say hi. Yep.
Hi, good morning. Hey there.
That's it. You can grab some breakfast during breakfast and convos. See what I
Yep.
did there?
Yep. I like it. I like it.
So, yes, you are able to do up to 50 people can join the chat. And some of the things that whenever Facebook rolls out a new tool or a new feature, I'm almost on the side of, well, it makes sense. Like they're Facebook and you have an inbred community. So, unlike, and this is their way to compete with Zoom and to compete
Right.
with, Microsoft and everyone else. But what makes sense about it is, or what I see could really make this fly, is the fact that on Facebook, you have an inbred community. You don't have to send.
Well, you
Go ahead.
do,
Go ahead.
but
'Cause I'm waiting
I
for you.
don't. So I'm always of the wait and see mentality when it comes to this type of thing because I'm a big fan of core competencies. Now,
Okay.
that doesn't mean you don't cross promote and that doesn't mean you don't get into different spaces, but
Right.
people come to Facebook for what they come to Facebook for. So, take for example, Google. tried to muscle in on Facebook's dominant position in social media with Google Plus, which we all know, or those, if you're watching this show, then you're in someone in the know. Google Plus went the way of the dinosaur, right? It's no longer there. And for the record, I was a big fan of Google Plus.
I was gonna say yes.
Yeah, I was one of the last standing right with Google Plus, but that didn't really work. And so and the same can be said for Facebook's attempt to muscle in on YouTube's video share. Now, Facebook is gaining when it comes to entertainment and video and people watching video, but let's be very clear about the fact that when it comes to online video, out of the two of them, YouTube is the big dog. In Facebook's video is not even approaching YouTube, the amount of content and hours spent on YouTube. And so Facebook is just taking this, if we can't buy you, then we'll compete with you and copy you. And that's
Right.
been their MO. But I don't know that this will even unseat Zoom because I talked about him a few episodes back. Christopher Lochhead, he talks about what he calls category kings, like the people who make the category. It's nigh impossible to unseat a category king. So when you're talking about video conferencing, I don't know that this move will unseat Zoom, who is the category king in that space. I mean, because we even had a snafu a few days ago when we were trying to meet because you sent me a Zoom link and Google had automatically turned on Hangouts for everybody, try to make it easier to conference. So I go to the Google Hangout link and you're on Zoom. And we're
Right.
like, well, that's not like him to be late. That's not like her to be late. So we're texting each other like, oh, you're on you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it caused confusion. We didn't know what was going on. And at the end of the day, we still use Zoom. We didn't
Right.
use Google Hangout, we used Zoom. And so again, time will tell because I mean competition is what makes markets strong. But and again, I see your point, and I see the how this makes business sense. I understand why they would make this move, but just like how Google was unsuccessful in unseating them with Google Plus, I don't know how successful this would be for unseating Zoom.
So, for those of you watching, we rarely have like these kind of conversations because we're just like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Where I will jump in now, T, and say, where, yes, I don't believe, for the record, that this will unseat, like, Facebook's not unseating anyone in the video conferencing and not even like with YouTube or any of those platforms. But what I would like to point out is that we are in the midst of a pandemic where everyone is stationary. And while
Mhm.
there's some cities, some states that are opening, like Georgia, that shout out to Georgia, uh, that we're going to. If this were any other situation, I think that there would be it take a longer time to get traction. But
Mhm.
I know that over the weekend, I already saw a lot of people, and interestingly enough, too, in Canada, because that's where I'm from, and most of my family is there. I saw all these invitations going out, and it was a long weekend there. So the fact that people have more time to play with some of these new features and these new tools, I think that something's going to be said for Facebook moving into understanding that their audience is, as a communication tool, that Facebook is very family friend oriented, where
Yeah.
just like the WhatsApp and that move to buy WhatsApp and what they did with Instagram. So like you said, I do agree. Time will tell,
Mhm.
but I think there's going to be something said for your ability to, and also note that Facebook is a social platform. Zoom is not a social platform per se.
Right.
It's becoming
Business
social
more.
because of our need to use it to do game nights, to do family reunions, to do graduate. Like I said on the last one, I've been to a graduation and I've been to a wedding now on Zoom. So it's now being used for those types of events, but it's still a business tool at the end of the day. And I think that's where the
It is.
two won't step on each other's toes.
That's an astute observation, very astute observation, because you're right. They have very different use cases. It's similar, but it's two very different moods. It's kind of like the difference between going to a bar and grill versus a sit down restaurant where you might dress up a little bit more. Um, and yeah, like I said, that's fair, and that's a um, very good, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah,
Observation.
observation. And I want to bring in Martin. Martin, so good morning to our Linton viewers. So Tanya Hicks, faithful viewer, thank you, and good morning, Tanya. And then Martin Lindsay, thank you for watching. He says that it's not about unseating, it's about options and innovation.
Yes and no. So here's the thing when it
Are you
comes
ready,
to
Martin?
these
I
types
hope
of
you're still there.
so here's what I would say to that, because I have experience working in larger corporations, and I understand the strategy, and rolling these types of things out takes investment.
Yes,
And the investment, the payback has to justify the investment. And so while I agree that it is about innovation and about options, they're not going to give you options for the sake of you having an option. They're going to give you an option if it makes business sense. So if this does not make business sense, then it won't stick around. Now, to Liberty's point, they do have the audience baked in,
yeah,
which helps. Let's be frank, it helps a lot. And if they can get people in those more casual, leisurely types of situations, getting on that platform, that, I mean, she talked about going to wedding. My son, my 4-year-old son, who's in the other room, I went to his birthday party on Zoom. So I mean, so that could have easily happened on Messenger. So I definitely think there's a use case for it, and I'm not talking against it. I
right.
just don't know if that makes enough business sense to justify its existence. Because let's be frank, without getting too technical and in the weeds, video is costly from a production standpoint. You have bandwidth, you have the servers, you have the processing. Like there's a lot from a production standpoint and a technical standpoint. There's a lot that goes into video. And so they it's not something that they can afford to just do without seeing some type of return on. So if there isn't the type of, and I don't know what that number is, I'm just pulling a number out the side. Let's say if there's not 12% adoption or whatever, let's be frank, this is going to cost Facebook something.
Right.
So I know we think that these tech companies have endless deep pockets, and to an extent they do. But again, it's at the end of the day, somebody's going to have to make a business case for it. And if the numbers aren't there, then they're not going to continue to do it.
Right. And what I just showed was just for those who haven't used it or have yet to use it, just the application and how you can get to it. And we'll probably do a tutorial at another time. But so there it is. So that was the Facebook news. I think that again, it's an interesting and a good move for them, and we'll see. And I want to, since I'm going to segue for a moment to your topic on Facebook as well, and then we can come back if time permits, because there are some other folks that have rolled out some features as well. And I guess if I get one more second to super quickly, that LinkedIn, since we do broadcast, that's our primary platform, we broadcast on LinkedIn Live, is that LinkedIn has rolled out polls where you are able to create a poll in your newsfeed to poll, to get engagement, and to really as a way for you to, for those of you out there that are maybe in product, or you just want to figure out what your audience wants to see. Like, this is something I do a lot on Instagram, is over the weekend, as you will see back here, I've got this, you can kind of see some semblance of a project that I'm working on. And I showed the behind the scenes in my stories. And then I polled. I said, hey guys, what do you think I'm building? Is it a storage? Is it a custom desk? Is it also a video booth? And, for people to go in. So that interactivity, when, if you think about it, sometimes you'll share content on LinkedIn and, people kind of see it or go by it, but the engagement of a like or a comment, 50-50. But now that they're rolling out polls, it will be interesting to see how people use it and to see what the numbers are like you said, when people roll out features, it's always interesting to see what hits and what misses. And right now I'm unable to do it on my desktop, but I can do it on my mobile device. And I'm going to just try this to see if you guys can.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but then the light isn't. There we go. So right there at the bottom. And then if I go ahead and I tell it, let's do that again. I want to start a post. There,
Yeah,
almost
at the bottom. Yeah. Hmm. Your other right. Yeah, there we go.
right, my
Okay.
other
Yep,
right.
at the bottom.
So there,
Yeah,
create
that's it.
poll.
Create a poll. Yeah. Yep, we can see it.
So just being able to do that, and then also just the categories that you want to put in, and it'll be interesting. I'm going to create a poll while you get into your Facebook tips and not your Facebook segment,
On
and
that too.
we'll see how many people.
If you could pull up that web page real quick before you
Yes.
start making the poll, so that people can see what I'm referencing. So, Facebook is no stranger to controversy. It seems like ever since the 2016 U.S. presidential election, they've been everybody's favorite target for various sundry reasons. Some of them, warranted, others, not so much. So, something that happened in 2018 is that Facebook got accredited through the MRC, which is the Media Review Council, or it
Mhm.
might be the Media Rating Council. I'm not sure, review or ratings. I think it's the Media Review Council. So, the MRC is a non-profit organization that, as the name would imply, gives accreditation to media bodies as to the trustworthiness of their metrics and sort of set standards and that type of thing. And so the MRC has cautioned Facebook, sort of sent a shot across the bow, as it were, that if they don't get more consistent with their video measurement, that the MRC will remove their accreditation because, Facebook is so big, and Facebook is what's called a walled garden, meaning they have access to all of their own metrics. Same thing with Google, and they only release some of it. You don't get the whole story. You only
Right.
see what they allow you to see. And in that respect, they sort of grade their own homework when it comes to the efficacy of their advertising. And it's an interesting landscape because you kind of have to play ball with these third party industry rating things, because what you don't want is for the government to come in and say, hey, you guys are too big, you're a monopoly, you're not being transparent, so we're going to break you up. And so a way to sort of head that off at the pass is via these third party accreditations. Say, hey, big government, no need to come in and break us up because we're transparent and we share and blah blah blah. And so basically, Facebook is not, you know, playing according to the rules of everybody else because they're so big that they don't have to. And so it's an interesting sort of scenario because on the one hand, for anybody else, the MRC threatening you would be sort of a big deal. But for
Right.
Facebook, there are some who are like, eh, because at the end of the day, it's Facebook. Like the advertisers aren't going anywhere.
Right.
So let me ask you, as a small business owner, like that badge of approval, would that stop you from putting your ad dollars on Facebook, or would it at least, how would it affect you as a small business owner who does advertise? Because some people are like, Facebook doesn't really give a damn. Other people are like, well, Facebook needs to get it together. Like which side of the fence do you fall on?
So it's interesting. Okay, so like you said, as a small business owner, I would say if I'm getting a return on my investment,
Yeah, there
it's
you
just
have it.
it's just the phase, because if I'm putting money out and I'm seeing not just vanity metrics, not just the impressions, not just okay, this many views, but I am seeing the swipe, I am seeing people sign up, I am seeing people register, and it matches the investment and the effort that I put in, it is what it is. It's working for me.
Right.
However, the educator side of me, who is when we're talking to people about analytics and for them to figure out how, if they're really getting that ROI, that side of me is like, no, Facebook, come on. You guys have been in the game way too long and you know
Hmm.
better. So I just had to throw that one in because, again, as a business owner, it's like, oh, yeah, if it's working for me, great. But then on the other side, it's the principle, right?
Yeah, and not only the principle, but standardized analytics matter because that's what helps you make sense of a space. So if everybody is using a different, metric and everybody's using different, you can't make sense of it. It's like its own language. And if
Yeah,
everybody is speaking, we have to speak the same language or a language that can be translated so that we can understand each other. But if you're speaking Mandarin and I'm speaking Yiddish, and there's no Yiddish to Mandarin translation, it's like we're just shouting at each other.
right.
And again, it's one of those situations where Facebook is such a dominant player in the space, even though again, it is not the biggest player in the space. It's significant, but it's not the biggest. It is big enough to where it can sort of command its own, like you said, it can command those dollars with or without that badge of approval. But it makes it really hard for everybody else because you might not be able, a third party like a Zoom, for example, might not be able to report the same metrics because they don't have the same capability. And frankly, they don't even know how Facebook's doing it because everybody is doing their sort of own thing, which is
Right.
why, again, standards are so important so that you can compare apples to apples instead of kumquats to tangerines. You know what I
Not the
mean?
kumquats.
Kumquats and tangerines. It good, but circling back, and thank you for that. I appreciate that insight. Circling back to the previous conversation about Facebook rolling out the video chat on Messenger. I think something that's helping a lot of businesses, but not equally, is like you said, given our current business environment, all of this is in the context of COVID-19.
Right.
Some the COVID-19 is accelerating trends, but if you weren't in a good position prior to, it's not going to save you. So, for example, we talked
You
about
can
last
I
week.
can I get you? I do this and
Mhm.
forgive me in advance. Say that again. If you were not in a good position,
If you were not in a good position beforehand, COVID-19 is not going to save you. Right. And take you for example, you getting your loan, like you have to have your stuff together. You had to have your paperwork, you had to be registered, you had to be, have an actual business, not you just waking up one day and deciding to
right?
declare yourself.
Right.
Like you had to have all of those things in order. And since you had all of those things in order, you were able to finally get to a yes. Whereas if you
Yeah.
didn't, all the money available in the world wasn't going to help you. And like you
Yeah,
said, we
that Jimmy
talked last
Grant.
week.
Yep.
Yep. Last week we talked about how the Q1 earnings had come out, and we talked about some of the big boys, but Blue Apron, which is a direct to consumer meal kit,
Right.
so they ship you the food and then you cook it. A lot of the D2C in the what's called the D2C space, which is direct to consumer, meaning there's not a you don't go in a retail location, you order something and it gets shipped directly to you, which is called direct to consumer. Blue Apron, which wasn't doing the best before, is still suffering. Like you would think that, with everybody staying home, that service like Blue Apron would benefit from that. And what they had done essentially is they were buying their growth. So they got a lot of investment dollars and they were advertising. Like, I don't know what you watch on YouTube, but I watch, and this is a confession. I hope you don't think less of me after I tell you this, but I watch death battles on Rooster Teeth. And so they'll take like two cartoon characters or two
Okay.
anime characters, like Goku and Superman is one of the biggest ones, and they'll make them fight to the death and see who would win a death battle. And so, anyway, they advertise on YouTube channels all over the place, and that costs money because Rooster
Right.
Teeth is one of the bigger YouTube channels because Death Battles has a really big following. And I digress real quick. the the ponies, the not powder puff ponies. What am I looking for? The
Power Puff Girls?
not
No.
Powerpuff Girls. It's the My Little Pony.
Okay.
My Little Ponies are like OP as hell.
Okay.
Like My Little Pony on Death Battles don't take too many L's. Like, and they'll have like the My Little Pony versus like Deathpool or
Okay.
somebody like that, and it'll be a stalemate. Like My Little Ponies are OP as hell. Like you wouldn't think about this, but ain't too many people out here that can whoop a My Little Pony. But anyway, going back to it, they advertised on those channels and bought their growth, and we're seeing that their business is really isn't that profitable. Whereas Peloton, which I am a user of, Peloton was in great shape beforehand
Right.
because those bikes are high margin and just they were really doing well. Peloton's stock price has more than doubled. So I can't cite the number off the top of my head, but Peloton's stock price has more than doubled, whereas Blue Apron was struggling before and is still struggling right now. Because what we're seeing is that people are going to the grocery store. Even, there's this meme about how when you go to the grocery store, it's like a supply run from The Walking Dead. Like
Okay.
they're going to the grocery store and buying in bulk, but they're not really doing the meal kit as much. And so you really those fundamentals are still fundamental. And so if you really have to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed in order to capitalize the way that you need to in opportunities or challenges like this, because it's accelerating trends. But if you're not together in the first place, then that acceleration isn't going to benefit you, which takes me back to my original point that when it comes to, again, we'll see how this shakes out, but people come to Facebook and these properties for what they come to them for. That doesn't mean you can't broaden those horizons, but
Right.
it's all about adoption. And since that trend wasn't already established and Zoom was, I think, and this again is all speculation because no one has a crystal ball. I think that at the end of the day, the acceleration of this will benefit the category king the most, which is Zoom. That doesn't mean there's not a place for Facebook, but I don't know how effective this play is going to be.
Well, I want to, and thank you for that because one, now I'm going to go to YouTube and watch some of these battles. So thank you for adding something to my
Yes,
playlist.
Death Battle. Watch
Death
Death
battle.
Battle on YouTube. And do the My Little Pony ones. Like I said, the My Little Pony ones. I know they did one with Rainbow Dash. They
Okay.
did one. My daughter. I don't get to see my daughter as much because she's a My Little Pony freak. She knows all of them. But My Little Ponies. I want to say they're undefeated. Fact check me on that because
Okay.
because I know for a fact that yeah they have like four of them, but I want
There
to
are a
say
couple.
that no one's ever defeated the My Little Pony.
I'm gonna check that out. And I want to say good morning to all of these LinkedIn, all these folks that are watching and chiming in on LinkedIn. So I'm gonna go quickly through them. And this is one of the things that since we earlier were talking about social media and some updates. LinkedIn, is there a way that we can get comments on LinkedIn Live like in real time without having to refresh? Because you've got to refresh your screen on a LinkedIn Live to see those comments coming through. So it's gonna be like a whole slew of them right now. So again, good morning to Tanya and Justin Colvin, James Oliver. Thank you, James. He's also shared the broadcast. So Martin, Lindsay, and Kim Creighton is on as well, and they're having a conversation. And that's one of the things that I love about live and us doing this live show is that people can also, while we're having the conversation and we can have a conversation with them, there are also micro conversations going on in the comments right now. And Martin says that Damon Dash has always been a big direct to consumer, big on direct to consumer business models for independent entrepreneurs. So you know what, Martin, thank you for that because that we can dive into that as a topic and pull in some guests on that because if you're seeing where a lot of these brands or a lot of these small businesses are thriving right now is they've cut out the middleman. There's a young lady, Moon Cosmetics. Don't quote me because, like you said, I've got a fact check. But she made $1 million in 8 minutes. 8 minutes.
Oh.
That news was released on. It was either in the last this past weekend or the week before. But by building the hype and her marketing in the pre-launch, when she went live and in 8 minutes, I mean, directly that relationship, as you always say, you're a big fan of email for that very reason, because
Hmm.
it is direct
Yep.
to your consumer. I think Kim was talking about the Facebook aspect. She said buying their growth. This has been a strategy for many organizational that remain non-profitable, Uber and WeWork.
This is very
Ooh,
true. A lot of people like you. That's very true. Uber hemorrhages money, not just lose it hemorrhages. I think the quarter before last they lost like $1 billion, something asinine like that. But
right,
yeah, buying your growth, and that's something that a lot of D2Cs, especially if they're venture backed. So if you take someone's money, especially a venture capitalist, they want to return on the investment, right?
right,
They're not angel investors. They're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. Like, no, I give you X, you bring me back Y.
right,
And so they dump money into marketing and they buy all these users, and then the users churn. Or if the users don't churn, they don't, there's a model called freemium where you get them in for free and then you try to tier them up, or
right.
they stay at the lower tiers, they don't ratchet up. So yeah, growth and profitability aren't always the same thing. And
That's
so
it.
yeah, very good call out.
And then going on, so James is just co-signing on that. Like the key word there is them buying their growth. And you know what? I don't think we've ever asked people where they're watching from. So there's some shout outs from Louisville, Kentucky, and then D2C. And oh, James also said that Uber just laid off a lot of people. So we've seen it, the Airbnb layoffs, the Uber layoffs. So we've had that in some past shows, and that's why we had someone like Becky Berry come on to just coach people through, okay, you're unemployed and you're looking for a job. So thank you everyone on LinkedIn Live and on Facebook for chiming in and jumping into this conversation. And look at that, T. Like we've been just going and going. It is now 8:03 a.m. So before we close out, and I want to talk about Thursday's guest. I'm excited about having our guests coming on, because, and for those of you who are watching live, we have a form that if you want, and even in the chat right now, if there are people that you would like to see us talk to and bring on the show, whether it be particular insights like, Martin, thank you for the direct to consumer. That is a brilliant, brilliant topic that we can discuss, especially since now this is where we are, where you're not able to get out. You're not, a lot of people are unable to do events the way that they would, and that would be a way for them to connect with the community. This, having an expert in that space to share insights would definitely be valuable to our audience. T, I'm going to let you talk about Thursday's guest.
Yes, very excited. And so this is Heather, correct?
STEM, this is, sorry, T.
Abby.
Yes.
So Heather is Thursday?
No,
No, it's
Adi.
Abby?
Yes.
Abby. Okay, sorry
Sorry,
about
that's why
that.
I was like, you
Yeah.
good. Okay, sorry about that.
So Thursday's guest is going to be Abby Olukeye, who does Smart Girl HQ out of North Carolina, and it's all about introducing young women, young girls, in specific little girls, into career paths in STEM. And so introducing them to coding and just different career paths and avenues. And yeah, her startup is making some big waves in North Carolina. And so we reached out to her. I wanted to give her, share our platform so she could talk more about her business. And full disclosure, she's my cousin. And so, Liberty had her cousin. I'm like, hey, I got cousins too.
There
So let's
we go.
do this. Yeah, Abby's going to be on Thursday morning, and it's going to be a good time.
Awesome, awesome. And we're just gonna round this out because the comments are still going. And James Oliver, just as a quick plug, and with We Montage and a faithful LinkedIn Live viewer, but he did an article with Mark Cuban,
Mark Cuban.
owner of the Dallas Mavericks. So most people might recognize him from Shark Tank, but he was doing a lot of stuff before Shark Tank, which is what enabled him to be on the show. But he talks a lot about just what it is to be a parent during this
Are you
time.
still
And
there?
that's, yes.
Am I in?
Yeah. Yeah. So he just talking about being a parent and how that impacts business, and him just the tips
Am-
that he was sharing, and
Yeah.
specifically because we are talking about, just in the comments right now, they're saying that it is a good time to start a business right now, that you want to. And thank you so much, James, for dropping the article in the comments below so that people can go in and read that. But that's another aspect of bringing on a guest that would like to talk about what it is to start a business now. And in the comments, if you are watching this replay, please go ahead and let us know who you would like us to bring on the show. But especially now, with people saying it's a great time to start a business, how to start a business in the midst of COVID-19, a pandemic, and now. So go ahead and leave their names in the comments below, or any other topics. And we are going to sign off for this week. Thank you so much for watching Breakfast and Combos. It is Liberty and Tea, and we will catch you on Thursday at 7:15 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Later.